Excess, glamour, and tragedy have always gone hand in hand with rock and roll. Although scores of musicians reach incredible heights of fame and fortune, success for many often comes with its dark side. Some met untimely, shocking, and even bizarre ends. We take an in-depth look at the life and mysterious death of some of the most legendary rock stars who left iconic yet tragic legacies. Starting first with the tragic case of Dimebag Darrell. Darrell Lance Abbott, also known as Dimebag Darrell, was born on August 20, 1966, in Arlington, Texas. He obtained prominence with the heavy metal band Pantera and later with the group Damageplan. Growing up in a musical family with his dad being a country music producer, Darrell started picking up his first guitar at an extremely young age. It would eventually lead him, along with his brother Vinnie Paul, to form Pantera back in 1981. By the 1990s, Pantera blew onto the metal scene with albums such as Cowboys from Hell and Vulgar Display of Power, which would go on to seal the band's legacy in heavy metal history. But this success was not without its stormy moments. The internal fights, especially with the vocalist Phil Anselmo, broke up the band in 2003. Darrell and Vinnie next formed Damageplan, issuing their first album, New Found Power, in 2004. Just when the engine started to rev up, tragedy struck during a concert on December 8, 2004, at the Alrosa Villa in Columbus, Ohio. It was during one such headlining concert that a mentally unstable fan, Nathan Gale, stormed onto the stage and shot Dimebag Darrell multiple times. Darrell died instantly. Gale had a history of mental health issues and reportedly believed that Darrell had copied his music. A total of 3 people lost their lives, while several were injured in this horrific attack before the police killed Gale. The death of Dimebag sent shockwaves through the music world and raised questions about live performance security. Claude François. Another tragic figure is that of Claude François, the French singer and songwriter who was an extremely important figure in making France a home of rock and roll. François was born on February 1, 1939, in Ismailia, Egypt. His Italian mother introduced him to music at a very tender age, and he later used to frequently accompany her to accordion practice. During the Suez Crisis, his family moved to France in 1956. François quickly started a musical career, immediately performing in nightclubs along the Côte d'Azur. With a string of hits like Bells, Bells, Bells in 1962, which sold over 1.7 million copies, François overnight shot to fame. François became one of the main figures of the so-called Yé movement of the 1960s, known to adapt many hits that were originally written in English into French. His outrageous performances made him a teen idol during this period. By the end of the 1970s, he had already moved to disco with great hits such as Alexandrie Alexandra. François' life was tragically cut short in one of those freak accidents on March 11, 1978, in preparation for a recording session at his apartment in Paris. He tried to change a light bulb while standing in the bathtub filled with water, and thereby electrocuted himself. It was an unbelievable end to a great talent. For fans throughout France, he simply could not be dead. Indeed, some distraught fans took extreme measures to attempt to take their own lives. François was buried in Danemois, near Paris, where his former home is now a museum and hotel taking care of his memory. Steve Peregrine Took. Another bizarre premature death was that of Steve Peregrine Took. Born Stephen Ross Porter on July 28, 1949, in Eltham, London. Took was one of the icons of British psychedelia, an influential musician, songwriter, and poet, most famous for his work with Marc Bolan in Tyrannosaurus Rex. Formed in 1967, the group reached fame due to its very specific sound, based on Bolan's acoustic guitar and Took's fantasy percussion, including far from ordinary instruments like the bongo and the pixie phone. These creative ambitions finally caused tension within the band that ultimately forced him out in 1969. After the split, he tried to pursue a solo career, collaborating with other musicians, forming bands such as Chagrat, and participating in other projects. Despite his talent, Took never reached the same level of fame as Bolan, but maintained an extremely dedicated cult following. Unfortunately, Took's life was shortened on October 27, 1980. He was asphyxiated because he choked on a cocktail cherry while in his London home. The night before his death, he took morphine and hallucinogenic mushrooms with his girlfriend. According to the coroner, however, neither drug contributed to his death in any way. Later, Took was interred at Kensal Green Cemetery in London, having lived a life as an amazingly singular figure in the United Kingdom music circles. Bobby Fuller. In somewhat related fashion, Bobby Fuller was born Robert Gaston Fuller on October 22, 1942, in Goose Creek, Texas, and also etched his mark into the psyche of the American rock landscape. Fuller grew up surrounded by music and began his career in the early 1960s in El Paso, Texas. He had formed the Bobby Fuller Four, which gained national attention due to their energetic rock sound and distinctive voice of Fuller. The cover "I Fought the Law" from the Crickets became one of the major hits in 1966, which further solidified the place of the band in rock history. Despite his rising success, Fuller's life was tragically cut short. On July 18, 1966, he was found dead in his mother's car outside his Hollywood apartment. The cause of death was ruled asphyxia due to gasoline inhalation, but some friends disputed the suicide ruling based on inconsistencies in the circumstances. The investigation into Fuller's death was under much scrutiny, and reports suggested that evidence was either mishandled or destroyed. Due to this lack of thoroughness, many theories would emerge suggesting he might have been murdered owing to disputes in his career or personal life. Fuller's sudden demise kept many guessing, and an indelible mark was left within the music fraternity. Hillel Slovak. In another tragic turn of events, Hillel Slovak was born on April 13, 1962, in Haifa, Israel. Slovak was a founding member and the guitarist for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. After relocating to the United States at age 5, Slovak's family finally settled in Los Angeles, where he took music quite seriously as a teenager. His guitar playing, previously influenced by such greats as Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin, came to be his career foundation. In 1983, Slovak was one of the founding members of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, playing guitar in the group's innovative funk rock sound. But despite his musical talents, Slovak had a substance abuse problem. Through 1988, he had tried to quit heroin, but sadly, he succumbed to overdose. He was found dead in his Hollywood apartment on June 25, 1988. His death jolted the band, which saw the exit of drummer Jack Irons due to the grief brought about by Slovak's death, while Flea and Anthony Kiedis were determined to press on with the group's cause and honor Slovak's memory through their music. His influence did not stop when he died. In 1989, the band dedicated their album Mother's Milk to him, in which the whole notion of loss and addiction seemed to be relived. In 2012, Slovak entered posthumously into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, a moment of recognition after his death that placed his memory in the bright lights for all of eternity. Randy Rhoads. Equally influential was Randy Rhoads, born Randall William Rhoads on December 6, 1956, in Santa Monica, California, who gave his life to leave a dent in the rock world. Raised by a musically endowed family, Rhoads started taking classical guitar lessons at age 7, thus laying the bedrock for his ground-shaking innovations in rock and heavy metal. He launched Quiet Riot early in his career, which was able to gain some local fame in Los Angeles, but the big break came when he auditioned for Ozzy Osbourne back in 1979. The collaboration between Rhoads and Osbourne launched both careers. He co-wrote and played on Osbourne's first solo album, Blizzard of Oz. released in 1980, with hits such as Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley. His melding of classical music with heavy metal redefined the genre, and he found his place among the legends of guitar. The second album with Osbourne, Diary of a Madman, released in 1981, further cemented his status. He was a technically brilliant and individualistic neoclassical heavy metal player. Techniques that would be standard features in the playing of metal guitar two-handed tapping and intricate patterns derived from scale formations were introduced by him. A polka dot flying V became symbolic of his identity as a performer. In a short act from 1972 until his untimely death in 1982, Rhoads placed his stamp on rock music. The life of Randy Rhoads came to an unfortunate end on March 19, 1982. While touring with Ozzy Osbourne in Leesburg, Florida, their tour bus driver commandeered a small plane parked at an airstrip and took the aircraft out for an unauthorized joyride. In flight, Aycock attempted to buzz the tour bus, but lost control of the aircraft after clipping the bus's roof. The crash killed Rhoads and 2 others on board. The death of Rhoads, at just 25 years old, sent shockwaves through the music community and gave fans reason to mourn what might have been. Kurt Cobain. Like Randy, Kurt Cobain lived an envied life of musical brilliance and personal struggles. He was born on February 20, 1967, in Aberdeen, Washington, and grew up to become the infamous lead vocalist and guitarist of the popular grunge band Nirvana. Cobain became an immensely recognizable figure within the music scene of the 1990s, highly regarded as a genius with his raw sound and deeply personal lyrics. His childhood was hell. His parents divorced when he was 9 years old, and he felt alienated. He found solace in the music inspired by punk rock and the building alternative scene. In 1987, Cobain founded Nirvana with the bassist Chris Novoselic. Their first album, called Bleach, which came out in 1989, laid the foundation for what was to come. But it was their second album, Nevermind, that launched them as superstars worldwide with its release in 1991. The single Smells Like Teen Spirit became an anthem of Generation X and brought alternative rock right into the mainstream. His lyrics often reflected his struggles with depression and addiction, and thus resonated with a disenchanted generation. Despite the massive success of Nirvana, Cobain had a deeply troubled mind because of the pressures of fame and personal demons. Highly publicized was his heroin addiction, coupled with his stormy relationship with Courtney, whom he married in 1992 and only served to heighten the pressure. To the tumultuous married life was born Frances Bean Cobain, as Cobain continued to face scrutiny in the public eye. On April 5, 1994, Cobain died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in his Seattle home. The find came after he had disappeared for days and sent shockwaves to his fans and the music world. A suicide note showing his despair and disappointment was present at the scene, and the Seattle police ruled his death a suicide in pretty short order. But that did not deter the conspiracy theories, as some fans looked at the discrepancies in the case. However, several investigations concluded that Cobain indeed died by his hand, and that the FBI closed the case after receiving letters calling for further investigation. Kurt Cobain's legacy lives on through Nirvana's music and the dent he left in rock culture. His influence can be traced through the innumerable artists referring to his name. Also, his struggles with his mental health have raised continuous discourses about the subject within the music industry. He was 27 years old when he died, joining the notorious 27 Club, in which other influential musicians also died at that age, further cementing his status as a cultural icon. Jim Morrison. Equally tumultuous was the life of Jim Morrison, one of the iconic figures in rock history. Born James Douglas Morrison on December 8, 1943 in Melbourne, Florida, he became the charismatic lead singer of The Doors. With poetic lyrics and magnetic stage presence, his route to fame as part of the music world placed Morrison at the pinnacle in the 1960s and throughout the early 1970s. Morrison was raised in a strict military environment, and this rebellious nature, along with an artistic inclination, was quite evident when he was very young. It was at UCLA that he met Ray Manzarek, and soon they decided to take the same course, in film studies, which led them to become part of a band called The Doors, along with guitarist Robbie Krieger and drummer John Densmore in 1965. Their self-named debut album, released in 1967, brought them into the scene with their unique sound of rock, blues, and psychedelia. Tracks like Light My Fire and Break On Through to the Other Side gained instant popularity. His lyrics, with Morrison, of course, were soaked with existential themes that captured the real meaning of love, death, and everything that came with being human. Though he was successful, Morrison struggled with substance abuse. His heavy drinking and drug use were becoming increasingly problematic, and his behavior, including how the band members interacted with one another, began to suffer because of it. After a disastrous last concert in New Orleans in 1971, Morrison left the group to concentrate on poetry in Paris with his girlfriend Pamela Courson. Tragically, on July 3, 1971, Morrison was found dead in the bathtub of their apartment in Paris at age 27. The cause of death included heart failure. However, no autopsy was done, and some have speculated that a heroin overdose could have contributed to his death. Pamela Courson said that after feeling ill during the night, he took a hot bath. Without any concrete evidence regarding his death, several conspiracy theories have emerged during the last few decades. One account claims he died of an overdose in a Paris nightclub and was taken back to his apartment, thus fabricating a cover-up of his real death. More significantly, nightclub owner Sam Burnett claimed Morrison died in his club, and that Courson was instructed to tell police another version of events. The sudden death of Morrison sent shockwaves among his fans and fellow musicians. He was interred at Père Lachaise in Paris, where his grave has since been the site of pilgrimage for many fans. With the sounds of his music and poetry echoing through the years, he will live on, carrying scores upon scores of artists from genres around. The influence of Jim Morrison on rock music is incredibly deep, remembered not only by his contribution to the group The Doors, but also as a vivid symbol of the counterculture movement of the 1960s. His artistic brilliance was combined with an often chaotic personal life, which added to his place in history as one of the quintessential figures in the annals of rock history. Tragically, Morrison died at the height of his career at only 27 years old, making him part of the unfortunate 27 Club, a group of influential musicians who all passed away at that same age, sometimes oppressed by his addiction and other times by the pressures and fame attached to their successful music. His artistic vision remains valid and still echoes in the perception of today's rock music. Mark Bolan. Mark Bolan, an icon born as Mark Feld on September 30, 1947, in Hackney, London, also left an indelible mark on music. Bolan's musical sensibilities took shape quite early in life, shaped by rock and roll idols like Gene Vincent and Chuck Berry. This connection with the music became deeper when at the age of 9, he received his first guitar, which set the stage for his future as a revolutionary artist in the glam rock genre. Bolan's unique fusion of musical styles and visual flair positioned him as one of the most recognizable figures of the 1970s. His professional career got off the ground when he joined the band John's Children in the mid-1960s, but it was with the formation of Tyrannosaurus Rex back in 1967, along with Steve Peregrine Took, that he found widespread success. Their acoustic, fanciful sound drew an inspired following. In 1970, Bolan began playing with more electric propulsion, shortened his band's name to T-Rex, and scored a major coup with the success of Ride a White Swan. This marked a transition into glam rock for T-Rex, and such albums as Electric Warrior and The Slider defined the genre. Bolan was one of the great on-stage performers and glam rock-style groundbreakers. Indeed, his 1971 Top of the Pops appearance, with glitter makeup, remains one of the cited founding events of glam rock. By the mid-1970s, though, when the music scene began to change, he found it hard to adapt to new tastes, despite continued experimentation, particularly with funk and soul elements toward the end of his career. His personal life changed in this period as well. Bolan began a serious relationship with singer Gloria Jones, and a son, Roland Bolan, was born in 1975. Artistically, in 1977, Bolan flashed a momentary return to the limelight with his television series, Mark, which presented new musical talent and gave him a forum for his performances. However, his efforts at career revival were quickly offset by a tragic event. On September 16, 1977, only a few weeks before his 30th birthday, Bolan died in a car accident. He was a passenger in a car being driven by Jones, which ran off the road and hit a sycamore tree in southwest London. Bolan's sudden death in a car accident shocked the world of music, and his funeral attracted various personalities, such as David Bowie and Rod Stewart. The site of the crash turned into a shrine for mourning fans as Bolan's long-lasting legacy was solidified. The impact Bolan has had on music is immense, since through glam rock, he inspired scores of musicians from various genres. His poetic lyrics, with catchy melodies and bold visuals combined, created even more pop culture through the 1970s into subsequent years. He was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2020, further testifying to the mark he indelibly left. Jimi Hendrix, another iconic figure in rock music. Jimi Hendrix was born Johnny Allen Hendrix on November 27, 1942, in Seattle, Washington, and is widely regarded as one of the most influential electric guitarists in the history of popular music. His boundless experimentation with the electric guitar, paired with his enigmatic stage show, revolutionized rock music in the 1960s. His early life was quite hard, and his parents had a troubled relationship that saw his mother leave when he was still young, leaving him for his father to bring up. Growing up through all the instability of his early years, Hendrix developed a deep love for music. At 15, he got his first guitar and quickly honed his skills, playing for various local bands. After a brief stint in the U.S. an Army paratrooper, Hendrix was honorably discharged after an injury in 1962, then moved to Nashville and started working as a session musician under the name Jimmy James, including with Little Richard and the Isley Brothers. In 1966, Hendrix relocated to London, where he founded the Jimi Hendrix Experience with bass player Noel Redding and drummer Mitch Mitchell. The group gained rapid success due to hits such as Hey Joe, Purple Haze, and The Wind Cries Mary. Their first album, Are You Experienced, which came out in 1967, is currently recognized as one of the greatest albums in rock history. The innovative guitar techniques Hendrix employed included feedback, distortion, and the use of effects pedals, creating a sound that married rock, blues, and psychedelia. An iconic performance at the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967, where he famously set his guitar alight on stage, cemented his status as a rock legend, with skill and flair for the dramatic. Jimi continued forging ahead musically with his second album, Axis, Bold as Love, issued in December 1967, then Electric Ladyland in 1968, which reached #1 on the U.S. charts and sealed his reputation as a trailblazer in music. Throughout his career, Hendrix used to challenge the boundaries by experimenting with different styles, putting into his unique sound elements of jazz and blues. Regrettably, Jimi Hendrix's life was cut short on September 18, 1970. He died in London in 1970 at the age of 27 years. Asphyxia, associated with barbiturate intoxication. The death was very controversial, with him taking sleeping pills after being out with friends and being found unresponsive in his apartment by his girlfriend, Monica Dannemann. The incomplete autopsy further sparked speculation on the exact cause of his death. Although some theories said he might have died either by foul play or because of an accidental overdose, it was recorded officially that he had died an accidental death due to complications related to drugs. His untimely death added to the legend of the 27 Club, a group of influential musicians who all died at that age, further enriching the mystique associated with his life and career. The impact of Hendrix on music is just immeasurable. He reinvented the possibilities of the electric guitar and made many other musicians from different genres just get up and start playing. His innovative techniques and emotive approach to playing continue to inspire today's guitarists. In 1992, Hendrix was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for his groundbreaking contributions. His music is still alive with emotional intensity and technical genius, in combining various music genres into one, often highlighting such very poignant topics as love, war, and personal hardships. Hendrix left an indelible mark on popular culture. Brian Jones. Similarly, Brian Jones was born Louis Brian Hopkins Jones on February 28, 1942, in Cheltenham, England, becoming another man instrumental in setting in motion the already racking rock of the 1960s renowned founding member of the Rolling Stones. He was a multi-instrumentalist with flair and a flamboyant showman who played an integral part in shaping the band's early sound and image, drawing inspiration from blues and jazz artists from a young age. In 1962, he organized the Rolling Stones, which included Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. Among others at first was the unquestioned leader and chief musical force behind the group. His eclectic fusion of blues and rock styles helped define the band's music during its early success, with songs such as Time Is On My Side and Satisfaction. However, as the fame of the band increased, substance abuse by Jones began to take a greater toll, increasing tensions within the group. By 1969, Jones's substance abuse had become more extreme, with him acting erratically and further undermining his reliability for the band. He was dismissed from the Rolling Stones in June 1969, just a month before his tragic death. Brian Jones was found dead at the bottom of his swimming pool at Cochford Farm in Sussex on July 2, 1969, at the age of 27. His death remains shrouded in mystery and controversy. The post-mortem report showed that he died from drowning while under the influence of alcohol and drugs. Reports indicated that his liver showed signs of damage often associated with substance abuse. The inquest recorded a verdict of death by misadventure, which in this context means intoxication played a contributory factor toward his accidental drowning. Yet, numerous questions always lingered in the air regarding his death, and some theories even extended to include murder in the equation. Many have surmised that he was murdered by Frank Thorogood, a builder working on Jones's property and said to be the last person to have seen him alive. Rumors spread that Thorogood had confessed to the killing of Jones in an argument over money, and witness testimony from the same night gave further suspicion of foul play. The fresh wave of attention to Jones's death has now led to demands for a new inquiry. Although Sussex police re-examined the case in 2009, it had been decided that no new evidence existed that was sufficient to reopen the case. The memories of Brian Jones still live on through the immense contribution he gave to rock and to the other generations of musicians who have followed. His innovative use of instruments like the sitar and marimba expanded the sonic palette of rock. The addictions and very turbulent relationships within the band did not stop Jones from being an iconic figure within the annals of rock music. His early death at such a young age furthered the mythology of the 27 Club, a group of influential musicians who all died at 27. His memory lives on with messages at his grave and through numerous documentaries about his life and career. Which of these music icons did you associate with songs that really spoke to your soul? Make your comments in the comments section below.